This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. President Donald Trump says Sudan will start to normalize ties with Israel, making it the third Arab state to do so as part of U.S. brokered deals in the run-up to Election Day.
The people of Sudan were ruled over by brutal Islamic dictatorships. It was the home of Osama bin Laden, a place of terror, genocide, and many other tragedies. Today, a great people of Sudan are in charge, and new democracy is taking root.
The deal, which would deepen Sudan's engagement with the West, follows Trump's conditional agreement this week to remove the North African nation from the list of state sponsors of terrorism if it pays compensation to American victims of terror attacks. It also delivers a foreign policy achievement for Trump just days before the U.S. election and boosts his embattled ally, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now with more. Chris, you've been reporting in Israel and the region for more than 20 years. Give us some historical context for today's announcement.
Well, Mark, I would say that it's really breathtaking. If you remember, back in 1967, after the Six-Day War, there was a famous Arab League summit there, and they said three no's: no to peace, no to negotiations, and no to recognition. And just a few minutes ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he made the announcement to the Israeli public, and he said there's three yeses: yes to peace, yes to negotiations, and yes to normalization. And covering this area for a long time, Mark, it's really breathtaking to see what's happening. We interviewed the Minister of Regional Cooperation the other day here in Israel. He said it's really a new Middle East. Shimon Peres had announced that a couple of decades ago, but really during that time it was more terror. But really we're seeing a new Middle East here in the region.
Chris, how is this being received in Israel itself?
Well, exciting. They're excited about what happened earlier this week with the UAE and Bahrain. They're excited about more trade, more normalization, more tourism. Sudan was an arch enemy of Israel for years, and now they're normalizing relations. They used to smuggle, Iran would smuggle weapons through the Sudan to Hamas. So this is really for Israelis probably the best news they're getting during COVID-19.
You see this practically helping Israel and Sudan?
Well, for example, Sudan's going to get the technology from Israel, particularly agriculture. That's something they really need desperately. For Israel, they're going to be able to fly over Sudan, closer routes to South Africa, even South America. Sudan is going to get help financially because they're going to be able to expand to the global financial markets. There's $60 billion in debt for Sudan. It's a win-win, actually, for both countries, Sudan and Israel.
And Chris, who could be next in line to normalize relations with Israel? Saudi Arabia, perhaps?
That's a possibility. Trump tweeted out, he announced that there was going to be 5 other nations. We're talking about maybe Morocco, Oman, but the big nation here in the Middle East would be Saudi Arabia. Joel Rosenberg, who's made a couple of visits there, he told us earlier that it's going to be just a matter of time when Saudi Arabia, the big Sunni Arab nation here in the Middle East, is going to make peace with Israel.
And quickly, Chris, what are the dangers about this new Middle East?
Well, if you remember, Anwar Sadat, the president of Egypt, he made peace with Israel. He really paid with his life. Iran is the big one that is losing in this, with all these Sunni Arab nations forming like an Arab NATO, a unified stance with Israel against Iran. So that's the danger right now, how they and possibly Turkey are going to react to all these new peace deals.
All right, our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thanks for your time, sir.
Great to be with you, Mark.
Here at home, President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden are hitting the campaign trail today, trying to get the most bounce after their final debate last night. Both got in a number of jabs, but also kept it surprisingly civil. Heather Sells reports.
Maybe it was a new moderator, maybe it was the new mute button, but what many noticed about the final debate was that, unlike the first, the candidates generally refrained from interrupting each other. Wheaton College's Ed Stetzer said the debate is actually going pretty well. And the NRB's Dan Darling observed, good debate, good questions, substantive. COVID focus and optics were unmistakable, with Biden walking onto the stage with his mask and Trump without.
I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital, I had it, and I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure.
Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
Many expected Trump to raise the alleged scandal involving Biden's son Hunter, but Biden brought it up.
With his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn.
That stuff, alleged emails showing Biden met with a Ukraine gas executive while he was VP and his son was employed by the Ukrainian company.
I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing.
The two feuded over immigration, with Biden blaming a Republican Congress for no reform during his 8 years as VP. Trump faith advisor Pastor Tony Suarez called the Obama-Biden administration a disaster for immigration. Another big topic for the night, oil.
Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement because I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
Biden also denied he opposed fracking, a newer technology for oil drilling.
I've never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape.
The Trump campaign producing the tape shortly after the debate ended. With more than 44 million Americans already voting, many experts expect a record turnout this year. How people of faith vote will be significant. On Thursday, the prominent Reformed theologian John Piper said he'll vote for neither candidate, citing what he called Trump's arrogance and Biden's pro-abortion stance. Heather Sells, CBN News.
This election could be one of the biggest in history, like Heather talked about, and historically we see from exit polls that different demographic groups within Christianity vote differently. Along those lines, another poll just out from the Public Religion Research Institute had some interesting findings. White evangelical Protestants breaking from other Christian groups more than others, with 63% being more concerned about abortion, while 57% of Hispanic Protestants more worried about crime. And a huge 79% of black Protestants said COVID-19 was their greatest concern. Joining us now with more is Brooke Hempel, the Senior Vice President of Research at Barna Group. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
This poll by PRRI also found white evangelicals breaking away from other Christian voters in many areas. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's consistent with what we've seen in our research as well. That really the priorities that they express in terms of policy have to do with their lived experience. And so where you see the demographic differences between these Christian groups has to do with what they are experiencing. So, for example, Black Christian Americans are more likely to have personally experienced COVID with a loved one being infected or even experiencing death in their family than someone who's white. That's just been how demographically that's impacted our country. And so their priorities really fall in line with what their personal experiences have been.
What is the biggest surprise about how Christians are approaching this election from previous presidential election years?
They're more engaged, and that evangelical audience in particular has been historically less involved in national politics. They'll have opinions on policy, but they don't get as connected directly to politics. This has been a year, and the previous election as well, but especially this year has been one where the evangelical church has really waded in pretty significantly into politics and being much more outspoken and following it much more closely.
Barna recently published research to help pastors guide their congregations through the election season. In these final days before the election, what can you tell us is the most important message for pastors and their congregations?
Yeah, we found that most of our pastors, about 7 out of 10, have said, I'm concerned what's going to happen with my congregation after the election. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And so our advice would be, A, to talk about it because their congregations are really looking for guidance and wisdom on how to apply what Scripture teaches about how we ought to live in public life, but also to remember and to emphasize to them that our faith is not in politics. Our faith is not in governmental leaders. And the Bible is very explicit about that. Our faith and our hope is in Jesus and in his saving power. And that we need to be leaning on that much more than we're leaning on the outcome of a presidential election for our hope and our future.
And in your research, Brooke, what are some of the values that would you say have been pushing people to the polls?
Well, as you saw with the issues, basically certain conservative issues such as abortion and people's perceptions of the Supreme Court places really are driving people to go to the poll and encourage and support that. And that's certain voters, and others are saying, you know what, racial justice is pushing me there, or the way COVID has been handled or not handled. Immigration is an issue that's been very strong. And so, again, these are very much along demographic lines. It has to do with what people are experiencing themselves, and that's what's motivating them to engage in these political topics.
All right, Brooke Hemphill with the Barna Research Group. Thanks for your insights, Brooke.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Senate Republicans are preparing to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the court on Monday. Barrett's confirmation would give the high court a conservative majority, and a Gallup poll shows the public supports her confirmation 51 to 46%. But Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden says if he's elected, he will create a bipartisan commission to study reforming the entire high court. Republicans are calling it a bad idea.
Our founding fathers would roll over in their graves if they saw what's happening and being discussed right now by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats.
A New York Times poll showed they overwhelmingly oppose the idea of packing the Supreme Court 58 to 31%. And you can find more on this story and other news from our nation's capital. It's all tonight on Faith Nation. Hurricane Epsilon is moving further out in the Atlantic Ocean, weakening to a Category 1 and missing the Bahamas. However, AccuWeather meteorologists say the season isn't over yet. They are watching the northern coast of Cuba and the Florida Straits. The forecast team says there's a 30% chance of tropical storms developing in those areas. Coming up, one of the drugs used on President Trump to treat COVID-19 is approved by the FDA.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust. CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. The FDA has approved remdesivir for treatment of the coronavirus infection. It is the first drug approved for treating COVID-19, although it has been under emergency use authorization since May. Studies found that the drug reduced the recovery time from 15 days to 10 days on average, and trial data shows that those who took the drug recovered 31% faster than patients who were given a placebo. It was recently given to President Donald Trump after he tested positive for COVID-19, and of course, he has since recovered. CBN's medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us now in our newsroom. Lori, remdesivir is an antiviral medication. How does it work?
Mark, it works by blocking the replication of the infected cells. We know that with viruses, when they enter our bodies, they penetrate our cells, and these infected cells then replicate and multiply over and over and over again. So you can see why it's important to take this antiviral medication as soon as possible before that multiplication process has gotten too far out of control. Antivirals are actually pretty new medications. They haven't been around for that many years. We know that there are a few on the market for other viruses like the flu virus, Tamiflu, you may have heard of it. And again, just like the remdesivir, doctors say it's best if Tamiflu and other antivirals for the flu are given as soon as possible, preferably within 48 hours of the onset of symptoms. I say this because we are entering into cold and flu season.
Lori, we know the president was given 2 other drugs. Has the FDA approved them?
That one, but not the other. Dexamethasone is a steroid that was given to the president, and that reduces inflammation. Very important. The FDA has given emergency use authorization for that drug. The other one, the polyclonal antibody, which acts like an immune system, has not gotten that emergency use authorization yet, but the company that makes that drug, Regeneron, has made that application, so it could come down within the next month or 2. In the meantime, there is another treatment that's very similar called convalescent plasma that is available to coronavirus patients right now, Mark.
During last night's debate, the president hinted about a vaccine being approved soon. What's the timeline on that?
Well, he said that we might know within the next few weeks, maybe the next month. The CEO of Pfizer, which is one of the 6 vaccines that is in the very last stages of those large trials, said that maybe by the 3rd week in November, they might be ready to apply for that emergency use authorization. If that happens, then the military is standing by to distribute it. There are already millions of doses being made right now. The first people that could get it might be by the end of the year. These are the very high-risk people. We're talking about frontline medical workers. Then maybe by January or February, other high-risk people might get it, people who are elderly in nursing homes, and then the rest of the population might get it by March. This is a best-case scenario, Mark. We've got to pray for this vaccine to be safe and effective, and we certainly would like it sooner rather than later.
And quickly, do you have any advice for our viewers when the vaccine does come out?
Well, let's go ahead and I understand that there's a lot of trepidation about it, and most of the healthcare experts say let's go ahead and wait and see what the drug companies say. They're going to make the data on all of these clinical trials available to the public, and so there's going to be a great deal of transparency, and we can look at it and hear what they say about the safety and effectiveness at that point.
All right, Lori Johnson, our medical reporter. Thank you, Lori.
My pleasure.
After the break, what one Hollywood actress says inspired her new production company and how she hopes it makes a difference.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30. Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Black Panther star Letitia Wright has launched a new production company she says was inspired by God. She's calling it 3:16 after the popular Bible verse John 3:16, with the goal of producing meaningful content within the entertainment industry. She told Porter magazine it was a name that was pressed on my heart. When I was in a dark place, God reached out to me, and I kind of see my production company in that sense. There's an issue and it needs a little bit of saving. CBN News was the only faith press to sit down with the cast of Black Panther, including Letitia Wright, who shared that she was ready to walk away from acting. But then God stepped in and opened doors. Here's a look back at that conversation with Ephraim Graham.
Remote driving system activated.
Wait, which side of the road is it?
For God's sake, just drive.
Okay, calm down. Woo! Let's go! Hey, look at your suit. You've been taking bullets, charging it up with kinetic energy.
Put around the truck. Ready, go!
Show off.
Did I hear correctly that you were inspired to act by seeing the film Aquila and the Bee? So that is true?
That is true.
Can you spell it for me?
G-A-B-R-O. Cabro?
Actually, it's got 2 B's. You know, Aquila, you ain't short on people who want to help you. I bet you just look around, you got 50,000 coaches. Starting with me.
So this is a full circle moment because now you're Angela Bassett's daughter.
Yes, it is a full circle moment. Yes, it is a full circle moment. That film really inspired me. It really made me want to become an actor because I saw someone that looked like me that wanted to do something positive. So that was what I wanted to put out in the world. So now playing this character and also having my mother be Angela Bassett is kind of surreal, you know?
You are amazing in the film.
Thank you.
I hear many people singing your praises already. So you on purpose took this wanting to be an inspiration to young girls.
Yeah, it's something that I was pretty much praying about since I was a kid, you know. I just want to do something meaningful in the world. I want to contribute positively, so that means the roles that I get to play as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that the characters are always flawless and perfect. No. There's no perfect human being. But just for, like this one in particular, I know it's going to release a lot of positive energy. So that's the type of work I would love to do. And I don't mind playing a villain or, you know, I don't mind doing that. But just to have something in my career where it's like a pinnacle moment of inspiration, I feel like this does it really well.
For people who have not seen the film yet, describe Shuri. She is, I mean, just brilliant.
Yeah, she's just a teenager, you know. She's just just a normal kid who just happens to be a princess, but loves technology, loves her nation, loves her brother, loves her family, and just trying to do something positive. She's very outspoken. She will say it out because she's been given that freedom all of her life. As a kid, she's never been restricted to rules and like don't say this and don't say that. She knows to be respectful, but she knows to speak her mind too. And that's something in Wakanda you'll see. Everybody's willing to speak their mind and say it how it is. So, yeah.
How scientifically inclined are you?
I am not scientifically inclined at all. I loved science when I was growing up, but that wasn't my calling. Science wasn't my calling. My calling was to just be an actor and other things as well along that line of entertainment. But no, Shuri's teaching me a lot. Learning about what Shuri's saying in the script opened my mind up to a lot more that's happening in the world about science and technology and maths and engineering. So, yeah, all in all, no. But Shuri's teaching me as I listen to her more and become her a little bit more. She's teaching me a lot.
Still ahead, we'll tell you what's considered the world's most dangerous paper route.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Stars and Stripes has been the newspaper of record for the U.S. military for more than a century. A question of money, however, recently put the continuation of that legacy in jeopardy. Now a filmmaker hopes his documentary on Stars and Stripes will become more of a call to action. The name of Stephen Barber's film is The World's Most Dangerous Paper Route. He says people have died delivering this paper to the troops. The paper is still being published for now, but the question over its funding remains. And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with CBNnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Have a great weekend.